A crowd walks through the street in St. Louis, Missouri. They're protesters. As they protest, they go through, of course, they fund the police, but also they make the point of saying they want the mayor of St. Louis, Missouri to resign, Mayor Lyda Krewson. Now, this took place on Sunday night. As they walked around through the particular areas in the streets, they get into a gated community. Now, this freaks out a couple that is apparently in the house. Two elderly couples who, rich, it's a ritzy neighborhood. They come out, confront the protesters with an AR-14 and another one with a pistol. Now, they go about pointing their weapons at the people who are there protesting. Black, white, gay, straight, everything in between. All of them were fair game. Now, this is one of the clips of the protest. I'm going to show you two clips to give you two views of this, perspective-wise. But if you notice, she has a weapon in her hand. And he has an assault rifle. Now, this goes beyond holding onto a weapon legally. This goes beyond having a weapon in your vest or on your person. No, this goes directly into these guys thinking they're under siege and pointing their weapons to protect their property. Here's another view of this. Close up. I don't know whether this couple realizes it or not, but this invites violence. Think of what I'm saying for the moment. All of these people are walking by in a protest. Whatever you want to think of them, they're peaceful. They don't have any weapons as far as we know. They're just there armed with signs and armed with, their voices saying the mayor needs to go. Well, these guys coming out their house like that is a massive escalation. They have weapons, and they are pointing those weapons at the protesters. 2 points. One, that's illegal. By Missouri law, that is illegal. You cannot take a weapon and point it at somebody's face in a situation of anger where you may actually end up shooting that person or injuring somebody. Now, Joe Biden makes this argument about shooting people in the leg. I don't want people to be shot in general at all. And yet, this is the situation to which we find ourselves because like I know, that anything could have popped off in that moment. Anything. And what I mean, anything tethered to the event, meaning somebody could have got shot, injured, killed, wounded in some way. The gun could have misfired. The gun could have accidentally fired. Who knows? But all of those things become possibilities the moment that you come out the house with that weapon and you use it from the standpoint of trying to scare members, ideally, of your own community in the context of being in your own state. Missouri state law, however, this is illegal. Now, one other piece or the point that I want to make also is having to do with protection of property and being willing to destroy life to do so. I understand that if you are in a gated community and you hear somebody coming through your gated community, you may get freaked out. The response to that, especially in their situation, seems to be to call the cops. Hey, we need you to get here immediately. There are people who are trespassing on our property. As opposed to, I'm going to go out with a gun and point it at people's face as they walk by, threatening and swearing back and forth. This is Missouri state law. 571030, unlawful use of weapons, exceptions, penalties. A person commits the offense of unlawful use of a weapon, except as otherwise provided by sections 571.101 to 571.102, if he or she knowingly exhibits in the presence of one or more persons any weapon readily capable of lethal use in an angry or threatening manner, or has a firearm or projectile weapon readily capable for lethal use. Now, I suppose it's possible there are no bullets in those guns and that they're just bringing those things out there to scare the population in order to move back. But I'm not entirely sure that matters. And that, I suppose, may be an investigation if this thing goes as viral as it seems to be going right now. One other point. They were willing to potentially injure or kill in order to protect property. I still say the best solution to that would have been to just to call the cops as opposed to go out and antagonize. Now, they did eventually call the cops, and they made the basic point that I've just said. People invaded their gates. They thought those people were trespassing. They went out there to confront the people to protect their property from trespassing. Here's the thing, though. While I accept that people trespassing is not the greatest thing in the world, I accept that you don't want people in your personal space and you don't want them opening your gate and flooding your property. By the same token, life matters more. Understand what I'm saying. I am giving the caveat that I understand that this is aggravating. You don't want these people making this much noise. You don't want these people in your area and all this other stuff. But I'm making the point that these people don't necessarily want to be out there. They're not loving it in that sense. They're out there because they're trying to get something across to your society, in this case, locally, to your mayor, but all in all, to the larger world. Now, what are you going to do? Are you going to shoot one of them if they do something that you didn't like? So if one of them tried to steal something that was in your yard, are you going to shoot them? If somebody tried to, damage something, let's say they break some kind of light fixture, or let's say they spray paint the gate, are you going to shoot them? Meaning the use of that weapon, and the only way that weapon really has pull in regards to sway of personality, or sway in regards to the latitude of what people do, is if that thing has bullets and if that individual is ready to pull the trigger, and what they're willing to pull the trigger for. Life matters more. It just does. And again, I don't begrudge you for calling the cops, potentially saying, I have a bunch of people here, protesters, and they have invaded my... No issue with that at all. That's more so of a bare bones appraisal of reality. And hopefully, the cops don't come there and shoot people in the face. Worse come to worse, I would hope the cops come there and shuffle the people away and not necessarily get to the beating and the hitting and the bashing with the shield and the tasering and the shooting with their own guns. Of course, that's always a risk when dealing with cops, especially from the standpoint of a protest. But this is unacceptable. This is totally unacceptable. You're not supposed to point guns into people's face, nor bring those things out there in the kind of threatening manner in which they're bringing them out there. And again, if anything was in those guns, if any bullets at all was in those guns, the ability and the potential for escalation dramatically goes up the moment that they walk out the house with that gun. And just one last point that I thought of. You realize they can't be out there 24/7. Meaning you've antagonized a group of people. How many ever that were there? I think they said 300 people were in the protests. You've antagonized, let's say, 100 of those people. Is it possible that all of them leave you alone? Yes. It is also possible that somebody come back in the dead of the night to get even. Yes. And did you incentivize the latter behavior by coming out with a gun and escalating the events in a way that it didn't necessarily need to be escalated? The answer is also yes. And again, this is not somebody who completely disregards your ideas of this is my property. I don't want people to trespass on my property. Even if these people are trying to make a really good point, I don't care about the point that they're trying to make. I don't want them to trespass. Fair enough. I get that point of view. That's fine. But we've seen too many people get shot. Too many people get shot in the back. They shot in your homes. Shot on a jog. Unacceptable. Unacceptable. Like, share,